Okay, we're going to start with Chapter 5, Planning and Decision Making. This will be Part 1. The first thing that I want to get into is this idea of defining a problem. And we have this idea that there's an existing state and there's a desired state. And in between getting from one to the other, there's a problem that we have to overcome. Just so you know that when you get into a corporation, you usually don't frame it in those terms. You frame it as an opportunity. Whatever that opportunity might be, it's an opportunity, not a problem. So I wanted to start with this slide. The book has this coming in later in the chapter, but I think this is one of the crucial steps whenever we are talking about planning or problem solving. When we're planning, we're planning to do something, right? To get something done. So we have an existing state, and we have a state other than the existing state. Or maybe we have maybe it's more like we have an existing state and we want to keep that state steady, but we have to do that over time, which might be very difficult. So the existing state still might be the same state, but how do we plan and organize things in such a way that it remains steady or consistent? So we're going to talk about planning and problem solving, and the first thing we want to talk about are the benefits of planning. So what are some of the things that we get when we plan? Why do we want to plan? Why make the effort? Okay, so benefits of planning: intensified effort. What does that mean? It means when I actually have an idea of what I'm going to do and a plan on how to get there, so I'm not just fumbling along, I actually will put more effort into it. I actually believe it more. It's part of the motivation. If you can believe it and see how to get from point A to point B, you're more likely to do it, right? We can also be more persistent in our efforts, especially if we think that it will really work. This is one of the funny things. If you want to be happy, and I've talked about in my classes, I'm like, well, what's the existing state and what state do you want to get to? And a lot of people are talking about making more money. And I think what we really want, I mean, there is an association of making money and being happy, but only to about 75,000 for a family. After that, there's not a lot of correlation. So why kill yourself for $1 million if it's not really going to make you that much happy? So if happiness is the goal, then how do we become happy? And so I start with this scientific research on how to become happier. Now then, if you believe it and you have, like in the happiness program, if I do this for 30 days, I'll be happier. If we believe it, we have a chart that we can check our progress, and we're working down this path. It'll make us more persistent. It'll give us direction, right? Help us understand exactly where we're going. And then we can actually create tasks and strategize how to complete those tasks. Some things are very easy, like the happiness program. My task is to exercise every day for 30 days. Okay, now I might plan out how I want to exercise. Well, today I want to weight lift, and tomorrow I want to go for a walk. The day after that I want to go running, and then I want to go biking, and then I want to go for a hike, right? So I can plan out and make sure that I'm keeping things interesting, so I don't get bored and it doesn't start to become monotonous for me. In businesses, when we start doing tasks or creation of task strategies, we're actually looking at the various tasks that need to get done in that Gantt chart, and then we start looking at what resources will we need to hit those tasks, who are we going to assign those tasks, who are we going to make responsible to make sure they get done, that sort of thing. Okay, there are also pitfalls to planning, not just benefits, but pitfalls that we need to be aware of. It impedes change and prevents or slows adaptation. One of the things that is constant in business, truly constant in business, is that change there's always going to be change. So when we're making plans and we have this long-term, maybe a year, maybe a 2-year plan to go from existing point to where we want to go, and things are changing in the environment, sometimes going from a steady to a dynamic environment, and we're so focused on reaching our goals that we don't adjust and change to adapt to the new environment. And that's one of the problems. False sense of security or certainty. When we make plans, we have this idea that these are constant things in our lives and we can count on them to stay the same. One of the things that we could say is, I'm going to get out of debt, and if you have credit card debt, there's a certain percent that you pay on your credit card debt. Right now that's pretty constant. I think we pay ours off, which I suggest you do. But if you're paying credit card debt, I think it's probably about 10%. I don't know, but that can change. So I have this plan, and I know how much I need to pay off to get it paid off in a year. But if that spikes up from 10% to 20%, then things will change, and I might get discouraged. And also, this false sense of security will actually hinder me from doing environmental scanning to look for changes. And then the detachment of planners. When we talk about the detachment of planners, we're saying that the people who actually execute and allocate resources and execute towards certain goals of the company aren't the CEOs. They give us the mission. They say this is how we want to compete and where we want to compete, but they're a level above the actual resource allocation that comes with the middle managers and the front or first line managers. And so there's some detachment, especially if they haven't been doing the middle management job or lower level management for a while. They think, well, let's get into China, but it might take a lot longer than they think to get into China. Okay, so what are some of the things that we need to do in our planning development? We need how to make plans that work, right? So we're talking about planning still, getting it from existing to desired state. So we set goals, we develop commitment, and part of the book is saying, and these are steps, right? Separate steps, but they're all kind of interconnected strongly. Setting goals and developing commitments, or developing commitment, can happen at the same time. So even though it says step 1 is set goals, well, if you don't set goals with other people, then it's harder to get them to buy into it. So part of developing commitment is setting goals with others. Developing an effective action plan, we're allocating resources and planning, and then tracking progress and deciding what kind of key performance indicators we're going to use to say when we're successful, or track our progress throughout the series. Now, when we set our goals, they need to be specific, right? I know exactly what I want. It's not like some people say, I just want to lose weight. Okay, that's not specific, because you can lose weight by going to the bathroom. So when we say specific, what is specific? Well, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, is that measurable? Sure, that's measurable. Is it attainable? Probably, unless you have some medical condition that might prohibit it. Is it realistic? When I think of realistic, I'm thinking about whether the things that I have to give up to attain that goal are things that I'm willing to give up. So is it realistic? It's realistic if I decide that I'm willing to give up Ben & Jerry's. Okay. And donuts and cookies and cookie dough and all those things, then losing 10 pounds is realistic. But if I'm not willing to make those sacrifices, it's not realistic. In a business, we might say that we want to grow sales by 10% in the next quarter. Okay, that might be attainable, but it's only realistic if we have the means to invest in it. Can we buy the advertising space, or the commercial time? Do we have that money set aside to make it happen? And then when we say timely, we're looking at timely in respect to meeting our corporate goals, and timely in respect to having a specific time date that this goal is going to be met. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. If I say I'm going to lose 10 pounds this week, is specific, measurable, attainable? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad example, but I think you get what I mean. Okay, developing commitment. So first, it defines what goal commitment is: the determination to achieve a goal. Okay, can we get not only myself to be determined to meet this goal, but I would need everyone on my team who's working on this goal to be committed to. So one of the things that they're talking about is setting goals collectively. Okay, so when we're setting our goals, part of developing commitment, like I said, is getting everyone who's going to be working on that goal to set it with you. And one of the things that they need to, when they set it, is they need to know that it's attainable and it's realistic. Realistic is the company is going to invest the time and money and effort to not only say, hey, this is a team goal, but we're setting you up for success and not failure, if that makes sense. Then once we set our goal, then we can make it public. We can make it internally public. So we're letting not only the members of the team that are working on it, but the whole team or the whole plant know that this is our goal. We can give it, let the company know that this is our goal. We can actually let all of our stakeholders know that this is our goal, and our shareholders. And so public is relative. How public do we want to go? There's a video that I linked that actually talks against making goals public. This is the first time I've ever heard of it, so I put it out there. I'm not testing you on it. It's just a link at the bottom of like TED Talk lectures for this chapter or this module. Watch it if you want. Let me know what you think. Obtain top management support. Well, if we're going to be realistic again, right? And realistic means that we're going to invest the time and money and resources into making sure that this happens. A lot of that time that has to happen, or it has to come from top management support, because they give us those resources. Okay, I'm running out of time. Effective action plans. This is kind of simple. If you're using Microsoft Project, it really helps you get all this put out in a Gantt chart. And then you can use that with your Outlook, and you can send the resources, the people who are responsible for the various steps in the action plan. This is part of tracking, so it can send them out a periodic email saying how's it going, what are the risks associated. This email can happen multiple times a day. It can happen every day. It can happen once a week. So you can set that up, and the resources get the emails, and they respond with completion percentage, and they can also tell you what risks that they're facing, and it will automatically update your Gantt chart, and we can actually see the timeline change, both up, moving it, pulling it forward, and pushing it back depending on how our steps are going. And that's part of tracking progress. And we might have, in large projects, we might have like deploying a huge enterprise resource planning system, which I did a lot with IBM and other places. There's certain huge landmarkers, and usually like 5 or 6 gates that we go through. And so those are closer into like what we call proximal goals. Maybe a 2-month goal is to get all this large amount done. And then our distal goal is to have it up and running in a 1.5 years. So as we're tracking progress, we have proximal goals and distal goals, and we can give performance feedback on how well those we're reaching those, and the quality. Oh, okay, this is it. I'll finish in part 2.